Once upon a time, two boys grew up playing hockey in the village of Terrace, British Columbia. One of them went on to play in the National Hockey League. The other became a comedian. Now, one flies planes and coaches youth hockey. The other is still a comedian and owns news skates. This is their podcast, Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian.
Hello, Jeff. My name is Ian Bagg. The show is called Enjoying Orange Slices. One of us is on TV a lot. The other one just travels for a living.
Well, we were
Remember when it used to
together.
be the other way around?
Yeah, I know. Remember, you used to tell everyone you're better than them because you were always on TV.
I knew I'd pay for that at some point.
Yeah, well, and well, this time we got to tell everybody. First of all, we're doing it at night for once, which is
Scary.
yeah, it's kind of scary. But we got a chance to do the wrap on all the games, and we watched some hockey actually. Well, we're doing this on what, Tuesday night, so we watched
Tuesday
hockey
night.
together on Monday night, and you did a special performance.
I was in Vegas Monday night. I did the annual cruise ship fundraiser at the Palms. And it was a lot of fun. I had a good time. But I came in. You were on the. You're like, hey, what time do you get in? I don't know if I can pick you up. I'm on the ice. And then today you're back on the ice. I'm just like, man, you are all over. You're more on the ice now than when you actually played in the league.
Yeah, a lot more.
That's
Yeah, that truer words have never been spoken.
I wasn't
You
even
kind
trying to
of,
slam you.
yeah, and I think you pinned me there. I'm done.
Oh,
Um,
sorry. Sorry.
yeah, but that's fair enough. Fair enough. Um, yeah. So last night I was on the ice, and then you landed in Vegas around 5:30, and you're like, "Oh, I'm here," and I was just leaving the rink. I'm like, okay, I'll come get you. And it said 18 minutes. I'm like, there's no way it's going to take 18 minutes, more like 45. And I was there so fast. It was like, it was crazy. Tonight was a mess though in Vegas. So we skirted it last night, but
I like when I'm standing at Air Can or no, is it I think it was at Air Canada and you were the other and
Valaris.
yeah, I was at Valaris and you're like, where are you? I'm like, right here. And I'm expecting you to tell me you're gonna be late. And then I'm just like, you're like, well, I'm right here.
Yeah, we probably waited an extra 10 minutes. Because yeah, I was a little further down waiting for you at T3 in Vegas, but was good. And then
Oh,
we went out to Mark Chinook's Monday's Dark, the 11th anniversary. Mark puts on, we've talked about Mark many times, but Mark puts on Monday nights. And Monday's Dark is usually, I guess might not have ever explained that, but Monday's Dark is normally when a lot of the shows in town in Vegas are dark, or maybe throughout the industry. And
if you're
that's
gonna
when
go to Vegas, try not and you're planning on going on to shows, don't be there on a Monday.
that, yeah, I guess that's a long-winded way of saying it. And you just made to the
Because
point.
that's the night they get off. That's
Yep.
the night.
And yeah, they like to unwind a little bit. I should have you tell this story because you're the artist. I'm not the artist. But anyways, he does Monday's Dark, where we've talked about this before, where they raise 10 grand every Monday or every other Monday for a local charity. And they've raised millions of dollars in the community. Mark does a great job with his wife and everybody else that's involved. And like Golden Pipes is down there. The guy, Carnell Johnson, who sings the national anthem for the Knights, and just a lot of really great people in the community, a lot of the artists. So he does his anniversary every December. And last night was the big night at the Palms, and they brought none other than Lord Bagg in to do the middle of the show. And
Middle of the show. So let me just put it like this. It takes a long time, right, to do the show. So me and Jeff are hanging out. We're hanging out front, and I get a text message. Where are you? You're on stage now. So I go flying back there. And I got another 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes to wait before I go on. There's another act. I'm like, why you guys gotta lie to me like that? There's no need to lie. I'm right over there. But it was fun. Um, I went on and did my usual thing. And of course, as soon as I come off, there's just a bunch of kids waiting to go on stage. And I'm just like, oh. God, just felt it. But there were a bunch of boys, right? So they were thrilled that I was out there swearing up a storm and talking about horrible things, right? The one guy was like, "Yeah, that was awesome." I'm like, "Oh God."
Bunch of 12 and 13-year-old
Uh,
boys coming on after Lord Bagg. And we thought you'd escaped it, because what happens is Mark has a lot of the people that come and help raise money during the year. He has them come on, and there was 18 acts. And so a lot of young kids were on before Lord Bagg, in fairness. And we
yeah.
thought, okay, like I was on the stage holding the microphone for you. I said, okay, you can, but we
Well,
thought,
well, well,
we thought,
why it's we because my intro was from enjoying orange slices with Jeff and
that's
Ian.
right. That's right. But I wasn't on the stage with you, obviously. But what we thought was a lot of the young kids were in the early acts, because that makes sense. Get
Right,
the
early, get
kids,
them
they
home to
got to
bed.
go to school. And so there was a lot of kids in the early acts. So LB thought the coast was clear.
And I was told the coast was clear. I, I thought, you know who I thought was going on after me was the girls with their thongs.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That's
Were
why
they
I
on
thought.
roller skates? I don't even know.
I don't know what they were really tall. They might not even been girls. Who knows? But that's what I thought was going on after me. But it was what a big night for those young men seeing those girls in
Oh
their
my,
outfits, and then me swearing up a storm. They're just living large.
they probably couldn't even talk when they got home. Yeah, because the girls that were going on after you, you can just say it, they're very attractive. So these teenage young boys, 12, 13, probably 14, 15 years old, listen to you swearing at those beautiful girls. They must have been like, their head must have been spinning off. They're like, we want to do Mark's show every year.
Mark's the best. But good for him for raising all that money for the
Yeah.
for the
Yeah,
community.
we don't want to.
And he's a Canadian kid from where's he? He's from Sault Ste. Marie, isn't he?
Sault Ste. Marie, his dad owned the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. And so huge hockey fan. And if you ever come down to Vegas, Mark does a lot of the in-house. He's the in-house host a lot of nights.
Yeah.
So he's
Yeah.
busy. You're
Speaking,
busy. He's really busy too. He's all over the place
how about
because he
you?
does.
Speaking of busy, how many games did you do last week?
Yeah, I was busy last week. I did 4, but I
Yes.
was in town. I wasn't traveling. It's not like I was all over the place like we normally are. It was a home game, literally. Last week was a lot of fun.
I love your camera. You're getting some weird lighting going on right now. It's just like you're doing the spookiest thing ever.
Yeah, it's
That's
it's the Halloween show at Christmas. So
it's all
uh
it was Christmas.
so
Uh,
I got a funny story to tell about the other night. We should really just talk about some of the games we watched, but I do have a funny story to tell. So Friday night, a game you circle on the calendar, Vegas. Dallas is in to play Vegas. And I happen to be doing the show with the pregame and the intermission postgame with Mallard and Gary Lawless. And we had a lot of fun doing the show. So Mallard is sitting there, and just after they do Lawless in order after the first period, and they do. So I'm out of the way, and they finish it, and he looks at me, goes, "Were they playing Christmas music during Lawless in order, like in the intermission?" He's so angry. Well, he sung TV that it was almost like he's offended they're playing Christmas music in between the periods of the games. So then I
during
was howling.
Lawless and Order.
Yeah, Mallard was all bent out of shape. Were they playing Christmas music? So the next night I'm doing the Henderson Silver Knights game, which was a lot of fun to do because they played the Texas Stars, and it's just great.
AHL.
AHL, American Hockey League. And in the intermission of that game, they're playing Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas." So I took I don't know how long the song is, but I took about a 2-minute video, and I just would pan the arena and I sent it to him. I said, "Thought you might be interested in this."
It's not
So
just me. It's not just for you, buddy. It's
yeah,
for
it's
everyone.
they're
It's
just trying
Christmas.
to take you down while you and
Uh,
Gary are doing Lawless and Order. I don't think Gary never said anything about it, so it mustn't have bothered him. But Mallard was all fired up, and then someone was walking out at the end of the night, up in 117 there, and they're like, "Merry Christmas."
No way. Did he snap?
He's like, he said it on the air. He goes, Merry Christmas. So, anyways, we're kind of hoping to have him on tonight because you have a question for him. But
What's his favorite Christmas song? I'll have to ask him. We'll have to ask him next week because he doesn't
yeah,
listen to this. So we'll make sure.
yeah, he'll be on. He'll come on, and we'll do a couple special Christmas programs with Mallard because he just loves it. Maybe we'll just come on, and the three of us will just take turns playing Christmas songs,
That'd be
and
great.
that would be fun. But
He has a new podcast coming out. 100% Hockey is what it's
yeah.
called. And he posted it on Instagram, and people were commenting on it. And I said, "How much hockey's in it?"
Because we have a hockey podcast, but I mean there were some hockey stories and general life stories.
Yeah,
Usually travel.
I see 32 Thoughts is getting their facts wrong. They're trying to steal our thunder too. Like, leave it alone, boys. You guys got all the information behind you. We're the
Yeah.
we're the wrong fact
Yeah,
podcast of hockey.
that's right. We that's how we thrive.
Yeah.
You know, that's what keeps us in the market.
Lies. That's what keeps us going. Lies.
Well, unintended. You know, we're
Yeah.
not like
We're not trying to hurt
we're
anybody.
not facetious people, but
No. We're just trying to give people good, salacious
well,
topics.
you could listen to us, give you the wrong information, or you could just look it up, and that's kind of what we're trying to do
Yeah.
is get people to look stuff up. So
We're just trying to get them back. Show your work.
yeah, and talking about since we usually are incorrect on this stuff, let's just talk about you and I. We've watched 3 games in the last 24 hours together, 2 together, and we watched 1 separate, but we watched it together.
We'll watch at the same time in
You
spirit.
got it. And so we watched and
Red Wings,
okay,
Red Wings,
Anaheim
Buffalo.
and Montreal. Let's start there.
Anaheim, Montreal. Okay.
Anaheim, Montreal went to shootout. Montembeault looked great, and Dostal looked great.
You're a big fan of Montembeault.
Yeah, I like him because there's a story behind him. Obviously he's on the 4 Nations for Canada, and they weren't sure they're going to take because there's some goalies that were making a charge. Logan Thompson was one of them, and he's had a great year. They talked about Joey Decord, but he couldn't get his passport. And I see tonight he was playing out of his mind against the Panthers again. So maybe he'll get his passport sooner or later. But I like Canada's goalies. I really like Binnington because he's greasy. Aiden Hill's been phenomenal. And you're like, well, greasy, how's he stop the puck? But I think Jordan Binnington is a guy that just outwardly is like, I'm I'm here to to just compete. And maybe Aiden Hill doesn't outwardly show that as much, but Aiden is very competitive too. Both those guys have Stanley Cups.
They're two different types of personalities.
Right. And you know what? I think they're both very comfortable with who they are, which is, I think, a really big thing for your goalie. And I like Montembeault because right now is the third, but they're all there. But I like him because this is a guy that was put on waivers a few years ago, and he signed and landed on his feet in Montreal. And he's been really, really good for them. And so it's a good story. And all 3 of those guys are good stories because Binnington came out of the minors to help St. Louis win the Stanley Cup. Aiden Hill had some injury seasons, and he came just like gangbusters to help the Golden Knights win the Stanley Cup. And so now Montembeault, he's kind of built his own kind of path or taken his own path, but it's been very successful, and he's helping Montreal kind of get themselves back going. So without going around and around, I just think I like the 3 goalies. They all have great stories, and that's kind of the cool thing about it. I mean, you could sit there and go, well, thanks, Sharps. Everybody's got a great story, and I would agree with that. But we're just talking about these guys in Montreal and Anaheim last night, and I like them.
You liked them. The first thing you said was Anaheim's jerseys are horrible. That's the first thing you said. And I said
that's because Sergio said it. Well, we were originally listening on the radio before we watched it on TV, and Sergio's like, what do you think of? He's asking the other guy he's calling the game with, what do you think of the jerseys? The guy's like, Well, they're really orange, but they could use a little bit more black. And so I like Anaheim's jerseys way better than their last one. So we're
Absolutely.
progressing. That's all I'll say about that.
And then the thing that was stood out too was we're big fans of Line A, and he had another goal last night, and where he got that goal from was pretty crazy.
Right.
He's basically in the stands where he shot it from.
Well, when he was in Winnipeg, right? That's obviously when he burst on the scene. I think he was third overall in the draft. But this kid can shoot the puck a million miles an hour. And a lot of nights, I'll give you an example of a guy's got a good one timer. It's not like his, but young
Me.
kid named, well, you've got a great one timer, and I should really compare you. But a kid that's got a really good one timer that's come into the league in the last couple of years, gangbusters, and really been a good player, is Pavel Dorofeev for the Knights. And so the Golden Knights. And so what happened, just to give you a comparison, if you look at his 12 goals this year, just about every one of them, 11 of the 12 are within like the dots, inside the dots. So he
Mhm.
goes to those areas, but he's also had the one timer. Well, last night when we were watching Line A, and he is
Mhm.
right, I think he might have knocked someone's popcorn out of their hand with his back swing because he was so far. And I remember Flats telling us about how hard, when he was in Winnipeg, how hard he shot the puck. And he was so wide, I couldn't believe it. And you and I just sat there and we're like, if that kid gets a hold of it, and Suzuki fired it from almost the point as hard as he could, and this guy just absolutely walloped it. I guess kind of similar to Ovi, when you have, there's superstars and then there's stars that have super shots, and Ovi's a superstar, and Line A definitely
He
has
does
had his
he
time.
does
It was
remind me
amazing.
of that. His one timer does remind me of Ovi's.
It's just, you know what? It's so hard, heavy, and I was just
So
so
heavy.
impressed. So if you look at it, Anaheim, Montreal, go look it up on NHL.com. Line A's goal outside the dots, so hard to score out there because the goalies in the NHL are so fast that the extra few feet that puck has to travel, they're there.
They're
But
already gone.
Dostal
They're
got a
already
piece of
gone.
it,
Yeah.
but he couldn't. So, anyways,
He didn't get any of it. Yeah, it was
yeah.
crazy. And he's
So
good, that guy,
yeah,
that young
Dostal's great.
goaltender that they have in Anaheim. I'm
Yeah.
blanking on it. What's his name?
I'll say his name again for the fifth time. Dostal.
What was it? I bet.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going headphoneless, so I can barely hear you because my headphones are in Vegas at the Harry Reid Airport.
Yeah. I should go down and pick him up, going to Lost and Found. Got
Yeah.
Lord Bagg's headphones. Yeah, we
You
got them.
should. They should. You shouldn't buy on those AirPods. They should come in packs of threes because you're going to lose at least two pairs of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, Costco should start selling them so you can get like a package of 24, and then you're like, well, I don't even care. But why don't you tell everybody when you found out that you lost them?
Well, my phone let me know as I landed in LAX. They said, "Oh, your headphones are in Harry Reid." I was like,
Yeah.
well, they're supposed to tell you when you're like a certain amount of space away from them. I didn't know it was another state. I didn't know that was the distance. So
Yeah.
stupid. Okay, so let's move on. So our favorite callers of the game are Kenny Daniels and Mickey
Oh,
Redmond.
yeah.
So
Kenny and Mickey, we love those guys. Mickey used to work with me. This is how Mickey's a legend. He used to come out in pregame. He'd be down riding the bike. We'd all come in working out sharps, and then he'd come out and pregame skate with us in Detroit. And he'd sit in the slot, Joe Louis Arena, and he'd work with guys on their shot. And
I
he'd
didn't
work
know
with
that it was
me.
pre-game skate he was
Yeah,
coming.
well, he'd come out and skate after. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't like Mickey was doing line rushes, but Mickey was around. Alex Del Vecchio was around, and just so cool. Like, I look back at it now, so cool to have those guys around. And Mickey would work with me on my shot, and he was the guy that was originally like, "Sharps, what are you doing? You got to pull it in and let." And so we'd work, and I'd shoot 50 to 100 pucks, and he'd be there, and then he'd shoot them. And I was like, Mickey, you going to play tonight? The way he could shoot the puck. I mean, he was great. And love Kenny Daniels call. Love it. So it was like old home week last night for you and I. Listened to the end of we watched the last period and the overtime of Buffalo and Detroit. And boy, that was some game.
You know what's great about it? It's like we talked about this. You're not supposed to talk over somebody calling the game.
Yeah.
And Mickey talks like kind of mumbles, underneath Kenny, but Kenny doesn't flinch, and it works. It works so good.
Well, and Mickey will throw stuff in there, like it's just crazy. And Mickey's been around the game.
He loves the game.
He can throw stuff in there, and he is so matter of fact, and just like he just gets out his point in very few words as opposed to us, but he does a good job and a great job.
He doesn't have an hour. He doesn't have a half an hour that turns into an hour.
That's right. But Mick will be talking, and Kenny can call a goal right over him, and Mickey will keep talking, and everyone's happy. Like
it's like going on a car ride with your uncle and your aunt. You can figure out which one's your aunt. I would say it's the little one.
Oh, they're great. So,
but they're fantastic.
But here,
what people forget is you need that to sell the game. People want to be comfortable, and those two are very comfortable to listen to, and you feel like you're in the car with them, right?
And as soon as you hear them, of course, you know who it is and whose team it is, and that is so cool. They do a great job, and they're they want the Wings to do well. I want the Wings to do well, obviously, but they will also Kenny has a great way of telling the story over top of it, where Mick will kind of come once in a while and just be like, he's going to tell it like he sees it. And so he does it in a very nice way. And yeah, they're a lot of fun, those two.
And he'll also throw stuff. He'll throw stuff that's happening not on the screen. Like he'll let you know like what's going on, what's creating that. Like you'll hear this every so often. Oh boy, that's something Mickey says a lot. Oh boy.
And Kenny's calling a game over them, but yeah, they're good. And we were interested in this game, and we were thrilled it went to overtime. We were like, and I don't know if there was a shot in overtime until
no, there wasn't.
I didn't even know there was a shot. Yeah. So, but you don't know.
Neither team had won in 7 games.
Yeah.
And Buffalo got the win.
No, they didn't.
I know.
No.
Wanted to see your face.
I know. But you know what's funny about that? I should have just let that go, because when you said that, all I could think of is Columbus in the Western Conference.
I was just like, oh, this is great.
You tried me earlier with the hearing thing, and then you tried to play it off like, I can't hear anything, but you got me there. So, but I honestly thought that you probably thought that they did win. So
it was honestly, neither of them should have got a point. That's how bad it was. It was so bad.
Boy.
Right?
But
no. Like,
okay, overtime was not great. Well, it wasn't
when overtime is that bad, they should take a point away from each of them.
It wasn't going to go down as the most epic overtime ever. But
how can you have Kane and Tarasenko and it be that bad?
Well, don't forget, you got Tuck and Thompson. I mean, if you look at Buffalo and Detroit, Detroit's got some of these veteran guys that are like, stars. Buffalo's got some of these young guys, like power and on the back end, and a guy like a Darlene, and they've got some really good players. And I think I don't want to get lost in the sauce on overtime, because both teams have been struggling, but Buffalo has had multiple goal leads,
Can you hear
a
me? Oh,
lot,
sorry.
and they can't find a way, to get it to the house. And so I just know this with Buffalo. They come here in I think they're here just after the New Year. And I think I'm on work. I would think I do that game. I'm not sure. I cannot wait because they are high wire act. Like they'll put 6 on you, but you might be able to get 5 back like right away. So somehow, if they can figure it out, they can be a super entertaining team. But I think for their fan base, probably a super frustrating team at times too, because they were up 4-0 on Colorado the other night, right? And Colorado came
Mhm.
back and beat them in regulation. That can be pretty frustrating.
That's
Yeah,
yeah. That's
but they can be, yeah.
and it in the third.
And
That
in
would
fairness, you know what? I'm not going to make excuse, but
too late.
Colorado has settled some things down there. They traded for 2 goalies, Scott Wedgwood. Uh, Big fan of Orange Slices because he's been on it with us, or we're a big fan of his. And they got Mackenzie Blackwood, and Wedgwood played tonight, and they stuck it to Pittsburgh 6-2. So look out! Here comes Colorado. So,
I got a question for you.
mhm.
They got Wedgwood and Blackwood. Who wrote down the wrong name in which trade? Like, were they trying for one and they got both? Like, that's crazy that
Well, okay.
Wedgwood and
So
Blackwood are together.
you would think,
Were they together in New Jersey?
I don't know how Blackwood was in New Jersey. Was Wedgwood there?
I think Wedgwood was drafted by.
So what would your like? But how about the nicknames? Like one of them's got to be Woody. So now how would it work? Like, would it be
Wedgie,
Wedgie and Woody?
Wedgie and Woody.
Yeah, yeah.
Can't
That's
call
how
him
it had to
Blackie.
be. You just sit there and wait, don't you? You just sit there and wait.
Might have to
It's
take
getting
that out.
late. It's getting late.
It's-
All right, we gave some love to some teams we don't talk to about, don't talk a lot about it, and let's give some love to Vancouver. Well, we always do that, but let's
yeah,
give some love to St. Louis. Okay,
St. Louis
Monty.
Monty's right at that ship is turned around away from the rocks and is headed out to sea again.
It's really something, and you know what I like is I like to see when young players come in, and I'm going to talk about the 2 kids that signed the offer sheets, Broberg and Holloway, and they were all over it. And tonight, like you
Vancouver.
don't get you, yeah, and you, what are you doing?
What? Can you can you hear the dog?
Oh yeah, which one's that?
That's Pearl just snoring up a storm over there.
Wow, that's really good sound you got tonight. Great audio. Um,
No, she's just that loud. She's such a dick. She's like, how's the podcast going? Boring.
yeah, yeah. Well, at least she's not barking every time I talk to you like Louis. Like
Yeah, yeah.
you don't come around here anymore. You don't talk to us. But so the kind of thing I like about these 2 kids is I like them in Edmonton. I liked Holloway because he played. They didn't play Broberg until the last minute last year. Both on the ice in overtime tonight in Vancouver, and Holloway gets the winner. Both can fly, but the move he made to score in overtime was like, and I just thought, I don't know if he ever played in overtime in Edmonton. They might have, so I don't want to, like, I'm not throwing stones, but I
I would
think,
say probably didn't.
yeah. So you got Draisaitl, McDavid, Hyman, probably Kane when he's healthy. You
Yeah.
can probably play Nurse and Bouchard at home, so I get it. But I just thought Doug Armstrong put out the offer sheets on these 2 kids. I think Broberg signed for 4 years and Holloway for 2. And the early returns on these 2 young men are fantastic. And I just wonder if the offer sheet might find itself into a little bit more getting a little bit more action as we head into the off season next year with some restricted free agents.
Oh, you think you're gonna see a lot of faxes being sent
Yeah, a lot of faxes to fax it up.
with offers? Do you think other teams are gonna do this now? Like it's kind of opened up a Pandora's box and that now it's gonna make people do it a little bit more?
Well,
Because it's been pretty quiet for quite a few years about the
I mean, there's kind of been I guess maybe a mutual respect or an honor system. Well, Doug Armstrong in St. Louis is like, we need to turn this around. And these are two guys that can help do that. And wow, that's impressive. Earl, that is really good. Don't bug her. She's out like a light.
He's out like a light.
She's like, time to wrap it up, boys. But just keep an eye on it. We're a long ways away from the off season, but there's always some really good young restricted free agents. And these two.
Armstrong was just like, they gave us nuclear bombs. Let's use them.
Yeah. And good. And you know what? This is the same guy who put together Team Canada. I believe I might want to misstep there, but I think he's part of Team Canada, right?
Yeah, it's got something to do with it, right?
So the Four Nations. So yeah. So talk amongst yourselves, whatever you think of it. But the offer, the UFAs is fun, right? But the offer sheet being offered would kind of be another angle. And the league has evolved in the way and changed. And there's a bunch of teams. You say, well, how's that? I look at Vancouver. They're signing guys. They're trying to go for it. Vegas always tries to go for it. St. Louis is like, hey, we need to plug some youth into this and we need to get back going. And, they changed gears with their coaches. Nashville tried the same thing. It's not really working out right now, but hopefully.
Not working out at all.
Yeah. You know what? Look out for Minnesota when they get out from underneath the two buyouts of Parisi and Suter next year.
This year? Next year, right? Yeah, next year.
Next year. Yep. So, anyways.
Speaking of Winnipeg, they smacked Boston tonight, 8-1.
Yeah.
And I don't know which do you think it is? Boston's that bad? Because they kind of smell red rotten right now. And Winnipeg is just coming into their own and just like hit like two trains coming together.
Well, Boston, and it's kind of interesting to watch two original six teams that you would at the start of the year, if you ask people, they're kind of scuffling. And it's been kind of a year-long thing for Boston, but the original six is New York. And so, right there, and it's kind of like one game it's good, and the next game it's not very good. And tonight was not very good for Boston. And if you look at New York, their last two home games, they've lost to Seattle and Chicago. And the pesky Kraken, they're pesky. But at the start of the year, the Rangers would have looked at those two games and gone, we would expect to get points out of those games, and they didn't. Getting back to Boston, and so it's kind of interesting, a little change in the guard out there, right? These teams are they haven't fallen out yet, but they got to figure it out. There could be there's been changes with both organizations, and it hasn't really been well received. And one of the changes, obviously, was the coach in Boston. Another thing that maybe upended them a bit was the contract stalemate with Swayman at the start of the season, kind of threw them off a bit, maybe, don't know. And then in New York, the Trouba thing.
I think with Swayman, whenever somebody holds out, they very rarely come back and have a fantastic season. Like it's usually a struggling season after a holdout.
Yeah. Well, something happened on the way to Grandma's house and they got to figure it out. They took a wrong turn, both teams right now, but Boston, both teams, when I watch them play, like tonight with Winnipeg, and I love Winnipeg's team. And here's the other thing. Winnipeg's been playing every other night since I don't even know when. If you look at Winnipeg's schedule, it's insane, right? And the other teams have that too. And I'm not saying they don't, but just look at Winnipeg's schedule right now. I don't think they have 2 days off in a row until just before Christmas. Well, I know it's what, the 9th or 10th today, whatever it is. Good for them. That's all I got to say. When I see a score like that, I'm like, taking advantage of your opportunities, and just good for Winnipeg because they had a little bit of a rough patch there a couple weeks ago, and they're trying to find a way. And we talk, they haven't had any practice time. Like, I think that's the big thing in the NHL these days too, is like, especially with the Four Nations next year with the Olympics, you're just relying on guys buying into what you're telling them, but just being so super talented and able to adapt. I think that's what you're seeing with the teams that are successful, is their ability to adapt. And the other teams, because the games are happening so fast right now, when you start to go for a little bit of a slide, it's really tough to get your feet back underneath you.
They have gotten their feet back underneath them. You know who's going to be really good after the Four Nations? Whoever has the most Russians, because they're going to be
Go ahead and read that list off. Just
They're-
give some names.
No, I had that. I read a list to you last night. Like, if Russia had a
crazy.
team, it was insane. Just goaltending. Vasilevsky, I can't say their names because I can't say their names. Shishkin, Bobrovsky. Those are
Hey, you know what Phil calls him? Bobrovsky.
Bobrovsky. I love it.
Yeah, Phil in Tampa. Love the Espositos. We love them. Yep.
Love. He's another one that we'd love to listen to. But there's just that goaltending. Like, there's nobody could touch that goaltending.
Well, and then Ovi, Nichushkin. You said Kaprizov
The kid from in
in
Philadelphia.
Philly. Yeah.
By the way,
okay.
what a great story last night. He got kicked out of the game and he signed a water bottle and gave it to a fan.
On the way out?
Yeah.
That's awesome. He's got some Ovi in him. He's got some Ovi in him.
And Torts found out about it in a press conference the next day. He didn't know about it. Somebody asked, he goes, "What? What happened? He did what? Well, that's the last time he's going to do that."
Torts is awesome. He makes me laugh. Kucherov. There's another guy. So
yeah.
I think we talked about this with Mallard, but I'll just say, would have loved to have seen a world team. But then when you started reading off the Russian guys to me last night, I was like, whoa. But here's the thing. Leon Draisaitl, do you think he could play for somebody? Like Roman Josi? Like
I think you could.
Kopitar? Kopitar, he's not too bad.
If the Russians were allowed to play, there should have been just an everybody else team. Right?
Yeah.
After the Russians.
Yeah. I don't know how it's going to look for the Olympics, but yeah, there's a bunch of guys, and I'm sure they're like, thank you, we'll take some time off, but I would love to see them play. I'm really interested to see, we talk about Team Canada and Team USA, of course, the Finns, but I'm really interested to see in this Four Nations, the Swedes.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're just the Swedes, some of the best people and great teammates, and I'm just really interested to see when they get the band back together, Team Sweden, and watch them see because these guys grew up.
Who's coaching that team? With Team Sweden.
Look at you with the trick questions. Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know. Like,
no,
because
I thought that was going to be next week's show.
That's going to be next. They just hired the first Swedish coach. First ever Swedish coach in the NHL.
Yeah, just got his first win. Chicago.
Yeah. I was shocked and surprised that was the first Swedish coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
well. Okay. You want to talk about anything else from last night or tonight?
No.
We're pretty good. We're winding down. We're winding her down.
We'll call this episode Sleepy.
Yeah.
We're like, hey, we should do it tonight, and then it just got later and later as we decided to do it. 1 a.m.
Well, we wanted to watch the end of the Canucks game. And you know what?
I started to
There
laugh
was
when it went into overtime. I was like,
Yeah, you were laughing at me because usually he's usually in bed by now. So, but
You-
this wasn't too bad. Evening, uh, late night with Jeff and Ian.
late night with Jeff and Ian. That's awesome.
Remember, hey, do you have any shows this week?
I do. We got to. I'm shouting out Scott Wedgwood for getting traded, then getting coming in after the first period, and then shutting her down against was that Buffalo, and then having a tough one the next game, and then coming back with another shutout. So
Yeah,
Scott
and
Wedgwood,
then he only allowed 2 tonight in Pittsburgh.
he's
Good job.
he's got a chance. I hope he runs with it. We know he's a
He,
fantastic second tier goalie. Why not? Let's see if he runs with the first tier. Yeah.
and I wasn't. Sometimes you would think they're trading in their own division. And Nashville and Colorado, right? Like, so
Mhm.
sometimes, you're like, okay, this is what we can get, but you kind of want to get a little bit more to guys in your own division.
Yeah.
And for Nashville, let them go. That's pretty cool. Like because I'm sure they had offers from them to go elsewhere, but maybe they just like the offer that Colorado gave the best.
He
But that,
can't be sad to go there.
oh, he had to be thrilled.
Yeah.
And you know how much, well, we love Nashville. Like I mean, what a place to play, but it just doesn't look like it's going to get turned around here.
It's not
Um,
working. It's not working, right?
yeah, it's just not working. And they lost again tonight to Calgary. Um, and yeah. So, okay. So let's do some shout outs.
I thought I just did mine. I'm going to shout out Mark Chinook for inviting me down to do my thing and let me do my thing for 6 minutes that I turned into 12.
Yeah. I love it. Well, let's talk about Mark for a second. Comes out, hey guys, how you doing? And known Mark for quite a while because he used to be the lead in Rock of Ages. He used to be Lonnie, and he was phenomenal here in town. And so through friends and that, met him over the years. He comes out, keep it tight. You got to keep it tighty. And then I'm like, you should have never said that to him, Mark, because now he might just go on for like 40. But yeah, I was sitting there listening, and it's like, don't flash him the light either, because he'll just keep talking. Don't try and get him off the stage. But I laugh. So that's a good shout out for Mark.
I got. I'll
Do you
send a
want to
picture.
shout out someone else?
No, somebody took a picture from inside this thing and sent it to me, so I'll send that.
Okay.
There's a
So,
picture of me dressing up for the occasion.
oh, you were dressed to the nines. We'll have to get a picture of it and put it above you.
People were dressed like it was their quinceañera, and I showed up like I was getting my oil changed.
Like you were walking into one of the casinos to get one of those local prizes.
That's right.
It's
Just
like,
like I just came down because
come down and get your blender. Here
I
comes
heard there was
Ian.
free parking, so I came down.
Yep, come down and get your blender. Okay, so you did 2 shout outs because it's getting late. That kind of slipped. And that's great because I have 2 shout outs.
Okay, go
I have
ahead.
a shout out, a guy that I've watched for years on TV, and we used to do golf tournaments way back in the day. Daryl Ray, who's the color guy for the Dallas Stars, one of the funniest people I've ever met in the game, and one of the greatest people. You gotta listen to Razor and his lines. He has such a good vocabulary, and he can articulate. And he's like, and that is a mass of humanity in front of the net. And he uses that once in a while. I love it. I love it. So shout out to Razor. Saw him for the first time in probably 20 to 25 years the other night at the Dallas game. And then I'm going to shout out, my second shout out is Brian McCormick, who does just about everything for the Henderson Silver Knights, radio, TV, all around good guy. Needs a few more leg days in the gym, but he is buffed. He's gonna hate that because Mallard gives it to him all the time. He goes, Sharp, still BMAC just slide in the odd leg day. So I'm like, BMAC, the calves, work them out.
That's really funny.
So we have fun with BMAC. But Brian McCormick with the Silver Knights, and we did game the other night. But we just go and have coffee once in a blue moon together, and just a good guy. So 2 shout outs to 2 people in the industry that entertain the heck out of people, are great guys.
Fantastic. Just
Yeah.
good people. Good
Yep.
people. That's what this is. Shout out. This is just a good people podcast.
We got good people.
Good people. Oh, you know what? I'll tell you
No,
what.
no. You just sound like Joe Biden there. You know what? I'll tell you what. Hey, you just
I'll
sound
tell you
like
what.
Biden.
What
It is
do
getting late.
we had a couple. We had a couple last night that we had to say. What's a two-way street? It was
No,
it's
no, no. Okay, okay. Do you want me to leave it? Okay. I guess we could leave it like this, and then we gotta send it off. Just remember, loyalty is a two-way street. That was the line.
that was the other loyalty is a two-way street. If you treat Jesus good, Jesus will treat you good.
Love to all.
Love to all.